this podcast, we discuss real-life experiences with teens and adults right here in Santa Barbara. The knowledge we gain and share from these talks are an aim to help young men and women build a solid foundation of confidence. In this episode, I speak with an older homie of mine, Phillip Rendon. Phillip came up about 2 generations before me, though still we share a lot in common. We are both family men and entrepreneurs, but before that, we both had been jumped into the East Side Krazies by age of 15. Fortunately, it didn't take long for us to figure out we were setting ourselves up for failure with the choices we had been making as young teens. We noticed a lot of homies were dying, going to prison, or becoming dope fiends, and that if we didn't change our actions, we would suffer the same fate. In the following discussion, we speak about events that helped us start making better life decisions and the path we have been on to help others to do the same. My main focus with this podcast, because in the nonprofit that my team and I are starting, what helped build confidence for us was martial arts, fitness, work ethic, and the family values. Not everybody has family, but if you could learn the family values, it helps out tremendously. So that's what we try to do a lot with the podcast, talk about all those different things. And one thing I haven't started yet, but it's with talking about the gang life.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done something like a similar type of framework where I've talked to recovering drug addicts who've been sober for years now. They've gone through everything like other drug addicts have, but yet they have found a way to stay sober, clean, and not only that, but happy, like fulfilled in their life. And to me, I'm obsessed with finding those strategies and sharing them so others can learn from them and then either do the same thing or take it and put their own spin on it, but know that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of stuff you can hear, YouTube, other podcasts, where you'll hear multi-million-dollar people strategies, billionaire strategies, famous people strategies. And I feel a lot of people can't really relate because they're like, this person's a billionaire. Yeah, it works for him, but that's not me. I'm never going to, be a billionaire. Or I'm never going to be famous, so they won't even listen to it. And I feel if we all in our own community share our different experiences and life stories, that people will be able to go like, well, Phillip, I know Phillip. He's my tattoo artist. He's been through that. Oh, I can do the same thing, and same thing for me. Gil started a business at 18 years old and he's still been running it. Most businesses don't last a year. He's had it for 18 years. He's a cool, humble person. I can do that. So that's what I'm obsessed about, getting out there. And when it comes to gangs, especially here in the 805 in particular in Santa Barbara, Santa Barbara ain't no LA. It's not where you gotta live or die. You walk out of your door and you might die just because of the neighborhood you live in. And I know from my experiences, what led me to get jumped in was just really because I was tired of being a loner, and I was okay with, I came to an understanding that, I'm a loner, I'll be a loner, I'll be okay. I don't need any friends. I don't need to talk to anybody. I'll go to school, handle my business, and then I'll go home. But yet, because I was alone, I was small, I was skinny, people seen that as a prime, target to try to punk around. And, so that after that went on and taking that, swallowing that pill for a long time, of saying, finally saying, well, fuck this shit. I ain't gonna do that anymore. And really, I played sports all my life, but I could never click with anybody in sports enough to actually have any type of friendship outside of the team. And same school, never could make really any friends. I wasn't a great student, so I didn't stand out
to teachers and administratives, and I just remember in as a freshman, I finished my last year of freshman ball, and I realized I don't want to play football anymore. I've been playing it since I was 8 years old. I did basketball, baseball. I was like, I'm tired of it. I've been doing that for so many years. I don't find it fulfilling anymore, especially now in high school. I'm the same height I am today, but 145 pounds. So I'm like a stick, you know. I'm not. It just football wasn't as fun anymore, my first year, my first game was the first time that I sat on the sideline the whole time, didn't play one game. Like YFL, you at least get 12 plays. But luckily, I earned a starting spot, and I played. But I was just like, after that, like, no, I'm done. And I was desperately looking for something within school that I could be a part of. I remember that, and of course, I did dress the part, but I wasn't. But that's just all my family. Yeah. That's all they knew. They knew gang life, you know, East Side, West Side, and so I dressed the part. But that's just how I thought.
Young Chicano's dress.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember walking into the office, asking, like, I had taken an interest in golf, so I went to the golf coach and asked him, like, hey, I'd like to join the team. What can I do to get on the team? And he just looked at me and he's like, oh, like, we're full. We don't have any space. So at that, man, I didn't put two and two together. I didn't think like that. Oh, he's just hating on me because the way I'm dressed. I look back and I know that's what it was now. Because why would you tell a kid who wants to play a sport, no, we're full, like, go away.
Yeah.
Especially for golf, you know.
Usually you practice with us and see what gets you a spot.
Come check it out, you know. But anyways, I say okay, and then finally I'm just like, fuck, I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of feeling scared. I'm tired of not having any friends. I'm tired of not being able to get any girls because I don't got any confidence to talk to them. And if I do, I'm automatically just put in the friend zone because they look at me as like a little kid, basically. And I just remember, said, fuck it, I'm gonna go pretty much try like what I know my cousins are doing. And I'm gonna go start kicking it.
Those fools are all in too.
Yeah, they were all in it. They were all older than me, but I was familiar with that life because of, you know, they've taken me around every now and then and meeting different homies, and so then I start to go kick it, and then it goes from not being able to click with anybody you know and pretty much feeling out of place to now you found a group to where I feel that's why a big part of why gangs will never die is because they're open to all the fuck ups, the misfits. Like, you don't fit in anywhere, you don't need special skills. You just got to be down to come and do pretty much what they're looking for is somebody to, if you can hang out with them and fight when it's time to, you know, to put in work or at least to stand up for yourself.
What you're explaining is like the definition of gangs, because all gangs are disenfranchised kids unionizing.
Yeah.
That's it. So we're all disenfranchised. We're all misfits. We fit together. We link up.
I see that, and
that's not all a bad thing.
No.
That's the misinterpretation of it. People think that's a bad thing, or people they've had like on KEYT. They kept trying to tell me, will you speak out against the East Side, or will you denounce the East Side? So if you're trying to ask me if I denounce gang violence, I completely and 100% denounce gang violence. Do I denounce the East Side? Never. I'm not an ex-gang member. I'm an ex-gang banger. There was a lot of good relationships that we built as well.
Oh yeah, and I'm right there with you. I don't think gangs aren't a bad thing. It's what the gangs are doing right now. Yeah. It's what they don't have a strong leader to show them a good way to like handle their what they call a gang. But really it's their crew, it's their team. It's no different from the Democratic Party, the Republican Party.
It's all the same.
My company, your company. It's like all it is a bunch of people who are together wanting to just be live.
Significant.
Yeah. Yeah, be significant.
Get that money and power to feel significant. Like you say, it's the same thing as anything else. Anything else, you know?
And that won't go away. That's what humans do. So I believe it's a matter of how can you put better leaders in place or work with the leaders to get the best out of these groups that we call gangs, because there's high talent in there. Like if you get some 13, 14-year-old who's willing to go kill, to go stab somebody, to go rob somebody, just for the namesake of his so-called gang. Like, what else is this dude capable of if he's steered with great leadership? Like, that's some warrior shit right there. That's no fear and just ready to do. Like, point me and I'll go do it. Like, that's what you got in these gangs. But as soon, like, you get labeled and then you're considered an outcast from the rest of the society. Granted, they've done horrible things and they got bad names, but it's real easy to forget, I think, that these guys they're youngsters, they're kids, you know, they're 14, 15-year-old.
Their brains aren't fully developed. They don't even have like that critical thinking. They don't even have it yet.
Even if they wanted to, they couldn't. But if they had strong leaders, if they had good leadership, there's so much potential going their way. And the cycle I see, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, is you go in young, right? And your idols are older homeboys. And you're kicking it, you're putting in work, and you're constantly trying to get to where they're at. And without that critical thinking, you're not seeing that your older homeboy is this, 20-year-old that still doesn't have a job, that is living off his parent or his grandparents, and he's a dope fiend. You're not seeing that. But at the same time, that's what you're striving to be, and like you don't even know it. And the older homeboy, he's went through it. I believe at that time you're getting to know, like, fuck, like I wasted a lot of my life. I can't get a good job. I got a bad record. I got kids that I can't even support. And when you feel like a loser and you feel insignificant, it's going to lead to a more downward spiral. But you're also going to want people around you that are going to make you feel good. And that's the little homies. Outside society thinks you're pretty much a piece of shit. Like, you're a 20, 21-year-old, you haven't done nothing with your life, you're a dropout, or all you did was get your GED, you can't keep a job, you're like no good. So we don't want you. So, like, that cycle just keeps continuing, because now the older homeboy, all he can get is love from the little homies.
That's it. Yeah.
And how are you going to give that up when you know there's nothing out there else for you? So now you're gonna play that card to the best of your ability, right? And you got all these army of youngsters idolizing you, and so you're gonna keep telling them what they want to hear.
Do that dumb thing.
Yeah.
Fairy tale.
Yeah, and so the younger homie grows in to be that older homie, and then it just keeps on going and going. So, what's your take on that?
It's a matter of giving people hope and self-worth. It's like people want to solve the gang issue. Gangs are not the issue. Gangs are the symptom of the issue. And it's, like I said, people being disenfranchised, people coming from broken homes, poverty, all those different things, they have a factor in it. So people don't have any kind of self-worth, so they gain their self-worth from fighting or doing all these different crazy things. Oh, this dude's crazy, he's doing this and that. But at the end of the day, none of that really means anything. None of that really holds any kind of weight. But like, if we could get people to believe in themselves and have some kind of self-worth. Like, I look at gangs, like I love the East Side. I love the Crazies, I love all of that stuff. I want to make them better. I want to make those people better. I want to see all these homies that are getting clean, getting sober, that have jobs, that are making things. I don't want to send them down a path and we're going to go do this and you're going to end up in prison for the rest of your life. Because I gained my own self-worth, I started seeing the purpose of having other people see the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I never thought I could barely get a job before. I never thought they would be able to employ 20 people, gainfully employ 20 people. Have a young artist yesterday, 27 years old, talking about I almost got enough money to buy my first pad. You know, that's incomprehensible, but that's because I didn't believe in myself. You know, I didn't grow up in a context where people were constantly teaching me how to believe in myself. My parents did the best they could, but they didn't believe in themselves. They were, you know, alcoholic and struggling with drugs and things like that, you know?
Yeah, and you can't teach what you don't know.
Yeah, you can't teach. They did the very, very best they could with the tools that they had. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough, you know?
So I'd like, if you could, can you talk about your childhood and kind of how that was?
I had, my biological father was gone. He wasn't in my life, you know? I didn't meet him until I was in my 30s, so that was kind of like something that didn't really exist. But my dad that I call my dad came into my life when I was 3. So I had a mom and dad. We had a pretty good home, you know. We were always poor. My parents did what they want, but I didn't even really realize that we were poor, you know. It was just, we had a good life. My parents were cool, but through circumstances and things, my dad was an alcoholic. He actually passed away not so long ago from alcohol-related stuff. But, you know, then all kinds of stuff happened with my parents. Then my mom got into drugs, and then that was went from that cool childhood, you know, decent childhood, everything's all good, to just
what age? Bam. Which age did that happen to where it started going
probably
down?
Like in 3rd or 4th grade when my mom started using. So then my parents were always fighting. There was domestic violence between both of them. You know, there was all kinds of things that we were exposed to, fighting and things like that. So then you start kind of trying to detach yourself from that. You know, I don't want to be part of this family, but being the oldest, I was the oldest of 6. I had to take care of my brother and sister still.
Yeah, you couldn't abandon them.
I couldn't abandon
them. Let them go through what you were trying to get away from.
Yeah, so I couldn't do that. So it's like, you know, that was hard going from a decent home to it just all went to crap. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I was looking, you know. I think one of the benefits of me, though, one of the things I saw with my parents both being addicts is I never wanted to go that way. I never abused substance, and that doesn't make me any better than anybody else. It's just not something that I was afraid of it.
And what do you know? Because I'm sure you've probably thought about why. Because so many people with parents who have problems would be so easy for them to just, hey, that they did it, so I'm going to start doing it. What made you say they did it, so I'm not going to do that?
Because I saw my mom. I saw how much she was hurting. And I saw that she was just trying to mask that. So being like really connected with my mom at the time, I just saw that. I saw addiction as a place of pain. She's trying to treat some kind of symptom. She's trying to treat some kind of pain that she couldn't deal with. Then my dad, the same thing. I thought about it more, especially after he passed away. Is like, what was he hiding? Mm-hmm. What hurt it? Because my dad was always laughing, always joking. You never see him in a bad mood, but you don't drink yourself to death unless there's some kind of pain deep down that you're trying to get rid of.
And so he was using the alcohol.
He was using the alcohol.
He was in a good mood, and
he wanted to stay like I want to be in the party. I want to be in the moment.
Always, yeah.
Always want to be I'm always bound to be the fun one. But at the end of the day, it's like you're an alcoholic. You're dependent on it, and ultimately took his life.
And your biological father, is there any type of relationship with him?
It's different. Like even later on down the line, when I did get a chance to meet him and stuff, he was in and out of prison doing this and that. I didn't really want to meet him because I had such a loyalty to my dad, my stepdad that raised me. But it was for my sisters. My sisters were the ones that asked me to meet him. My cousins, I wasn't even in touch with my cousins from the Rendon side. They were all from San Diego, basically. They got a hold of me. And I met my cousins and I met my uncles, and I was really grateful for that. When my dad was like the mess up of the whole bunch. So I went to meet him for my sisters, but I really didn't have any emotion about it. I really didn't have anything. But I believe a lot in faith. I believe a lot in God. I believe a lot in forgiveness. So I really struggle with that. I'm like, well, I gotta forgive him, you know. I just remember walking in the room, hearing all these things about him being hardcore dude, this and that, and he's just crying. He's expecting to see a little kid, and then I walk in, I'm a full-grown man with my own kids. So it was a weird experience. He was crying, but I was kind of like just stone faced, had no emotion. But there came a point where I said, well, God's forgiven me of so much. I've got to forgive him and move on. I can't say our relationship, we don't argue, we don't fight and everything, but I don't really have like an emotional connection with him.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, he's cool. Even more so now, it's hard. After my dad died, I would lie if I said that I didn't question why God took the one that was always there for me and the other one that wasn't there.
He's still there.
You know,
yeah.
But that's not my thing, and you know, I'm the one to really judge him. So we have a little bit of a relationship, but it's all good. But it's not like a father-son relationship.
And so you met him at what age was that when you went and met him?
I was like my early 30s.
Early 30s. So, and you're the oldest of how many sisters? How many brothers?
Well, 6 from my mom and my stepdad. There's 6 of us.
But what about in the household that you grew up in?
There were 6 of us in that household. But my biological father had a gang of kids. There was a bunch of us. So I started meeting all these brothers and sisters and everything. As far as I know, I'm the oldest boy. I have another older sister that's a year older. I'm 43, so my sister's 44. And there's an older one that I've never met. But everybody younger I have.
All right.
So that's been cool because we're like day one instantly tight, all of us.
Yeah, so you had those relationships instantly almost.
Instantly. We're real tight. But they grew up with the same thing. They didn't have him.
Yeah, he was gone too, even though he had
a lot of my brothers and sisters had it worse though because they didn't have either parent, you know.
Yeah. And did you, the household you grew up in, was that on the east side?
We bounced around a lot. I used to come back because the majority of from my mom's side, the Graham family were all on the east side, so I would always just gravitate back to the east side. But we went to San Bernardino County, Victorville, Oxnard. You know, we were jumping around quite a bit because my dad lived in Oxnard. He grew up in Oxnard, so we spent a lot of time there.
And what was your exposure to the gang life at the earliest memory you have?
It's always been around because my mom was from the east side. Like my aunts were all from the east side. Like a lot of my cousins were from the east side. But we didn't really look at it in terms of like I'm gonna join this like a street gang. It's just you grew up in it. This is where you're from. From the early age, I used to say, well, I'm from east side locals. I wasn't even old enough to be an east side local, you know. But I was just like that. Those are the guys I saw. I saw paintings that my aunt would do paintings of the east side locals and all this. So I idolized them. It was cool, but it was really different. It wasn't as negative. I saw a lot of good stuff. I saw these dudes just chilling together and people barbecuing. I saw the lowrider scene, everybody with their cool cars and all these old veteranos cruising around with their ladies. So I saw a lot of that when they were cruising Milpas. That was kind of my first exposure to it. But that was more, I guess, an exposure to the culture. Mm-hmm. I didn't really experience the gang stuff until later on.
Yeah, you've seen it as a family. And when did you... At what age, because I know you said you had a hard time just leaving right away, so at what age did you end up kind of getting out more and more and kicking it? I
was about 13. It was my cousin Brad, the one I just got the portrait. It was like, so that was 91. He committed suicide. But Brad, just to step back a little bit, during all that dysfunction, Brad was there. He was like the one that kind of raised me, took care of me. He grew up in a really dysfunctional household. Right there, smack dead on Ortega Street on the east side. He was one of the main east side gang dudes. But he took care of me. You know, he's a big brother. Always took care of me, always schooled me. You know, people were bullying me. He's the one that made me fight. All this stuff. Made me stand up for myself. When he suddenly, out of nowhere, just shot himself, none of us were expecting that. Nobody. I mean, it took the whole city of Santa Barbara by surprise because he was just another happy dude. And now he's gone. And I remember at the funeral, like, all these homies, I mean, there was people from the east side, west side, Goleta, all these rival dudes that were there just showing crazy respect to him. And I remember at the viewing, I'm on State Street, and they forced me to go view his body, for one. I didn't want to see his body. Mm-hmm. So my aunt forced me to go up there. I saw him, and it just freaked me out. I remember take off running all the way back to the east side. And back in the days that the homies used to kick it at the junior high, right there by the trees, by the fence, you know, the little cul-de-sac. And I remember just running over there, trying to run to my family's house on Ortega Street, and some of the older homies from the gang grabbed me, you know, like, hey, what's up, man? You all right? You all right? And I remember one of the older homies, tears in his eyes, dude. He's like, you're going to be all right. We're all hurting, man, but we're here for you. And it was just like instant. Those dudes were there. Like, I didn't have the connection with my family. I'm running away from them because of all the dysfunction. And boom, these dudes just love me instantly. So I just started, like, kind of trying to hang out with them from that standpoint and being with them, you know, like never thought really of getting jumped in or anything. That stuff didn't really cross my mind so much. It wasn't that serious. They were just kind of like, you were just part of the East Side. But then it's like...
That was 13?
Yeah, 13. So it was probably about, I would say like 14 or 15, like when the Crazies first started coming up. And then I started... Then there were people more my age, because I was kicking it with dudes that were like 4 or 5 years older than me.
How old was your primo Brad?
He was 19 when he passed, and I was 13, going to be 14. So there was a good age gap, but I was always with those older dudes, you know?
Yeah.
I was always with them, so I still had kind of a disconnect. I couldn't relate to them.
Yeah, in teenage years, I mean, those 4 or 5 years, that's a whole nother generation.
And a lot of those dudes were like in and out of youth authority already. They had different life experience already. Some of them already been to prison. So I looked up to them, but I really couldn't relate to them. So then you get, you know, like the Crazies. The Crazies were kind of like started as being disenfranchised on the East Side. Like, we don't fit in with any of these groups, so we're going to just do our own thing. So I started kicking it with them, and then just decided, all right, cool, I'm going to get jumped into the Crazies.
And from that point, did the homies that started the Crazies, were those buddies of yours, or you had to get to know them?
A lot of them I had to get to know. It was some of them were like family members, and, you know, cousins of mine. You know, I knew them, but it was trippy because they tripped on me, because I'd be coming around and they'd be like, well, what's up with this dude? So some of them were actually like trying to jam me up and see what's up, and I just kind of like, you know, held my ground, and I'm kind of like, cool. So we just started hanging around with them, and I just clicked with them. You know, they're all around the same age, you know.
And before getting jumped in, you're kicking it with those dudes a lot more. Did you have anybody in the family or even outside the family saying, hey, Phillip, this isn't the route you should be going? I see you, you know, you're not making the best decisions right now?
No, not really.
No?
No.
Because I
don't think, see, to be honest with you, I don't think if my cousin Brad was alive, he would have had an issue with me getting jumped in.
Mm-hmm.
Because he used to say, you know, you could be from the East Side, that's cool, but, you know, you do your own thing. So he would have been that voice of reason, even though he was from there, you know?
Yeah.
But that's just how he was.
Because I see, I want also parents to know just some things to look out for.
Yeah.
Because there are signs out there to know that your kid, he may just say, hey, I'm hanging out with friends, Mom, or I want to go out and do this, Mom, but there's things you need to be looking out for, like, even though dressing, like you said, it's just, hey, that's how Chicanos dress, that's also a uniform too.
It is a uniform, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that made me think, well, I should just go all the way and get jumped in, because I remember getting jumped, me and one of the other homies, and we weren't even jumped into any kind of clique or anything. We were from the East Side or whatever. West Side comes through, we end up getting jumped. I'm like, well, dude, if I'm going to get jumped by them anyways, well, I might as well just click up with everyone when we could just do this the right way.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It just kind of happened. It's like self-preservation. Like I said, it's disenfranchised kids unionizing. That's what we did, you know?
That's how it keeps on happening in different forms, just over and over.
But it was different than other people's, like, I guess, cultural context, because for us, it's just something you grew up in. It was very normalized. It was just... You're from the East Side, you're from the West Side, you're from Goleta. You don't make those choices. It's just where your parents happen to live. That's where you're from.
And who my friends are.
Yeah, and who my friends are.
Yeah, because everybody has a group of friends, and not all those friends are good kids.
Yeah.
They're going to make bad decisions. Not only gang members that break into cars at night or that tag up walls. It's just like, usually that's just youth, period.
Yeah.
It's just gangs have been, and by no means am I trying to make gangs look good, but I'm just saying they've also been... they have that stigma to them now, to where it's so sensitive. It's like an open wound. So anything that they do, it's just amplified, you know. And that's why even all these youngsters now, they get gang enhancement slapped onto any charge. And
so we didn't have all. I would have been probably washed up if I would have had that back in the day.
Yeah, and it's happening now. Like kids, my little godson Dino, he got sentenced to 10 years in YA as a 15-year-old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's like, what is he supposed to do when he gets out now? He's gonna grow up in there and then come out that being all that he knows. And that goes for my primos. I've seen it happen over and over again. Mm-hmm. So I'm really hoping that some of these youngsters will listen, even though it's like so hard, you know. No matter how much you tell them.
What happens is society tries to take away what's important. So they try to tell you, well, your friends are no good. You got to be away from them. There's some friends that you don't need to be around. Like, I stayed away from and I don't mean no disrespect towards anyone that uses drugs, because I know that people use drugs for a reason. But I purposely stayed away from a lot of people that when they became dope fiends, I disconnected because I just couldn't. I didn't want to be around them.
You had that at your home. That's what you were trying to escape, right?
I was trying to escape that, so I stayed away from that, and it saved me. It really did save me, because it was basically the difference of who went to prison for all these long terms and who didn't. It was who was on drugs, because you can't commit these crazy acts of violence unless you're under some kind of influence. We'd get all drunk and we'd go out, we'd fight, we'd do all this crazy stuff. If I wake up in the morning, I'm not thinking about anything kind of violent, because my mind is sober, my mind's cleared. So if a lot of these homies would have never gone on drugs, never drank all this crazy stuff and didn't, they would have never committed those crazy acts of violence.
Yeah, or had some sort of opportunity that they could get fulfillment from, and which most of the time it didn't exist for them, or they didn't know how to go get it. And I just remember being a teen and me being told by family members is that, hey, your homies, they're not all your true friends. Mm-hmm. Some are going to end up, could really care less about you. Mm-hmm. They'll be there. Yeah, they're going to fight by your side, but that's because they want to. It's mm-hmm. not because that they're fighting for you, or all they're going to do is end up as dope fiends, losers, and this and that. And you don't want to hear, like, I just remember thinking, like, well, yeah, that might have been your homeboys, but mine are different.
Everybody thinks that, but it's like, I remember, like, my cousin Brad telling me, he's like, watch your back, because your homies are going to be the first one to tell on you. You get busted, there's 3 of you, one of them is going to tell on you guys, you know, and those things, that's just real stuff, but we don't want to believe that. Mm-hmm. And it's true, because you look around, you see who sold out who, or so-and-so's busted, and so-and-so's on his girl. Someone, you know, you're struggling, and so-and-so's sliding in your girl's DM. That's just how it is, because we're stupid humans, and then we're trying to figure ourselves out. We're trying to find gratification and edify ourselves by doing all these dumb things. You know, that's just how it goes. Yeah,
and then it's something, even though I don't know if just then I didn't take the time to think of it more, like actually look, but I know when I'm talking to youngsters and I'm telling, well, look, take a look. You don't have to take my word for it of me telling you what's going to happen if you stick with this life, or what your homies are going to end up. Mm-hmm. Take a look. What are your oldest homies? What are they doing?
What do they have?
Well, yeah.
What do they have? Like, well, how can they take care of themselves? You know, I was talking to a little homie yesterday. He's signing the paper. He just got out of prison. We got it together, got some things together. You're signing the paperwork to get his first car. You know, buying a car. And I'm just so freaking proud. And I just told him, I'm proud of you. But how many other homies will say, I'm proud of you? I said, man, I'm so proud of you. But how many of those other older dudes have ever had that experience to go buy a car?
No, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not even be able to save up the money to even get close to it most of the time, or get a job.
So we have to be honest about it. It's just like, be honest. Know what you're getting into. You don't sign any kind of financial contract without knowing the fine print. I just, you know, like, I'm not against gangs. I'm against gang violence and crime. I'm not trying to take what's important from a kid. Like, if his neighborhood's important, I said, well, dang, if your neighborhood's important, if you really love the East Side, you really love the West Side, then you should be making it a better place. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's how you should do your gangbanging. Shouldn't be violence against other brown kids that look just like you, because violence against other brown kids is just self-hatred. I hate myself, so I hate anyone that looks at me, because we don't go to Montecito and gangbang on people. They don't look like us. We can't relate to them. We try to hurt people that look like us.
Yeah, or IV, right? You're trying to go party with the college kids. You're banging on their door to go party with them. You're not banging on their door to beat them up and rob them.
Yeah, exactly.
But you'll do that to your own homie, or someone that looks the same walking through your neighborhood or through a different neighborhood.
You'll even hate on your own. Like, you see, like, and you've seen this as a business owner, and you come up. I've had people say, well, you think you're all good because you got this business or you got that business going. You ain't want to hook up the homeboys no more. It's like, people will hate on each other for doing things that are good, instead of saying, like, dude, I'm so happy your business is going good, man. I'm so glad your kids are going good. You know, I'm so glad that you got a kid in college. Things like that. So we just have to tell the truth. And I did that when I raised my kids. People say, well, I live that life, so I'm going to shelter my kids from it. I didn't shelter my kids from it. I didn't allow them to grow up in it, but I also didn't keep them from their cousins. And I let them look at my homeboys that I love and that I have respect for, that who were dope fiends. And I allowed my kids to see that, and they saw the difference of, like, what a normal person was like and how this dude was out of his mind talking to himself. You know what I mean? So
they could see both worlds.
They saw that. They've been with me on the East Side when we're barbecuing and a fight breaks out. And of course, I'm a normal dads. I'm gonna get my kids out of Dodge, but they saw those things, and none of my kids ever, got in minor trouble. None of them ever really got in any kind of trouble. No one ever joined any kind of gangs and things like that. And it's
I think let's go back there a little bit, because I know we're talking a lot about our mindsets now, and I want to help create that story of how our mindsets came to be. Mm-hmm. So at 13, 14, 15, 13, you're kicking it. Now around 15, you actually got jumped in.
Yeah, I was 15. Yeah.
And now being jumped in, and for the next couple of years of your life, what's going on? What does that life for Phillip look like?
It's crazy, because when you get jumped in, it's official. Everybody knows you're from the Crazies, or you're from whatever clique you happen to be from. Like, you're from an actual clique, and they don't just jump anybody in. Mm-hmm. They don't just pull people off. Like, people have these dumb ideas that we're just walking around trying to get random people to join this gang. It's really, you got to kind of be sponsored in. Someone's got to say, well, this dude's down, or this dude's kicking it. So you got that little bit of self-validation, because they want you in, and this clique is this is something new, this is something that's moving. So you felt good, you felt like you were part of it. And then you felt like there was something I had to defend, because anyone rolls up on me, where you from? I can't say, well, I don't bang. You can't say that anymore. No. Now you got to say, well, I'm from the East Side Krazies. You know what I mean? So it's like a little bit of machismo kicks in. Even though the reality of it, and you and I both know, is you're scared as crap every time that happens. Anytime anyone rolls up on you, like, here we go again. Roll up into the transit center, here we go again. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. It ain't all fun, but there is some adrenaline in it. I mean, and we're lacking all of these good endorphins, and you're getting all these crazy endorphins going from being that. And like you said, the girls are like, oh, so-and-so from here or so-and-so from there. So the girls start coming around. People are inviting you to parties, or people are acting like they're afraid of you.
Yeah.
And that, for some weird reason, brings something, it's like they say, some people say it's better to be feared than respected. And you kind of get that whole thing going on. So that's a trip.
Yeah, it's got all those goodies, all wrapped up in, and it's so enticing, and then it's hard to leave once you get it.
Yeah.
And just like we were talking about, kind of hating on other dudes that look like you, other Chicanos. It's like, even just backing up the East Side, or backing up whatever gang and neighborhood you're from. And then you get jumped in, and all of a sudden now you're looking at the dudes that just back up the East Side as different too.
You're looking at them less than.
Yeah, exactly. Even though, and that's just like, it's kind of mind blowing to think that that's how our minds thought back then. Is you're just so quick to you want to just alienate yourself from everyone else and really just be with that clique.
Yeah.
And as like just like you said, it's filtered. Not anybody can get in, and that's just a sense of pride that you get from being, all right, I was chosen. I lasted those dudes fucking whooping my ass for however long that took, and then you're like, I got it now. Now what am I gonna do with it? And so moving forward, what are the things that you ended up? Because I remember being there. There were dudes that were just crazy, right? They're the ones smoking rock or fucking doing crank, and they just wanted to go out and go to different neighborhoods and rob people or hurt people. And there were some who just wanted to kick back. They're in a barbecue and chill and drink. Yeah, if something bad happens,
you have the bullies.
In your own thing.
Those fools.
It's like your own little community within, the gang.
I was always like, I was raised right. Like, I had good morals. So I could never be a bully. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, I was backing up people that were being bullied. But people were doing all these crazy things, and I would think about it. But on the flip side, you want to build your name. You want to build your rep. So at that time, it was kind of at the beginning of everything you see now was starting. You had like the Loquitos and the projects from the West. All that. They were doing their same thing. It's funny because all those dudes are my friends now.
Yeah.
They come to the tattoo shop. We're chopping. People trip out, and we're telling these war stories, and we're talking about things that happened against us. But we're trying to build our name, try to build our neighborhood. So we were just like, boom, they would do something to us, we'd do something to them instantly, and it was just crazy, and everybody was watching it, So it gives you that notoriety, it gives you that adrenaline rush.
Yeah, it gives you almost like a little sense of fame within, your city.
Yeah.
And it's intoxicating.
But on the flip side, it's like, I was always about talking to the girls. Mm-hmm. I was always about rapping to the girls and trying to meet this girl and that girl, and you always got those dumb homies that are like, you're kicking it with the girls, and then they come start some drama, and the cops show up, and there goes that whole thing down the drain, you know. So that was about having fun and being cool about it. But when it was time to throw hands, we threw hands. Most of the time, we're fighting with each other, dude.
Yeah, a lot of times if you're gonna drink and barbecue and in the same spot for long enough, the homies are gonna fight.
Yeah, and now it's even worse because now it's like there's just much more politics. We weren't really exposed to politics back in the days, and I'm never gonna get too deep into that. But it was just East Side, West Side, whatever. But you wouldn't have a party without somebody getting in a fight or something happening. We thought it was funny.
Yeah.
You know, we fight with each other, but now it's like, well, this person's good, this person's no good. There's just so much of it you can't even keep track of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I want youngsters to know as well that I think in their mind, if they get jumped in, because I hear a lot of peer pressure now. I hear like, oh, the homies want me to do this, and now they say that in order for me to be able to jump in or even be able to claim this or say that I'm backing up this is like they want me to do this, and they're being told by homies that haven't even done shit. Like they just played the part.
That's what makes me angry now is I look back and I see, because I talk to a lot of the youngsters and I stay connected with them. Like, why talk to these little kids? Because they're my kids' age or younger, and they'll ask me advice on something, and I'm not like, why are you listening to what this dude is saying? This dude's a dummy, bro. You think that dude would tell me to go do that? He wouldn't tell me to go do that. He wouldn't tell any other homie. He's just trying to plan you. He thinks you're weak. So then that dude starts thinking, well, this guy's trying to punk me. And then he decides, well, I'm going to make a decision on my own. I'm not going to do it because of this and that.
Yeah.
You know?
I think me having, because I was raised right as well. I was raised with love, I should say. I don't know if there's any right way to parent. I mean, that there's no book for that, and I don't know if there's ever a 100% correct way of how to parent. But I was raised with love, and I was raised to have a mind of my own. And I think that was the biggest thing that saved me, because I was
creates a conflict, though, doesn't it?
A big conflict.
I was constantly in that conflict.
Because I was in a gang. You're supposed to, if they say jump, you know, how high. If they say, hey, let's roll over here, you're supposed to go without questions asked. And me, I couldn't do that. It didn't register to be okay with me. It wasn't like, hey, I thought we were from this gang and we're all supposed to be fucking like big shit and like handle our own business. Yeah. If that dude beat you up, why do you want us to go jump him? Why don't we just make it a one-on-one and you handle business? But that's because a lot of dudes are afraid.
Yeah, they don't want to fight.
They just want.
They're afraid to get beat up. I mean.
Yeah, or whatever. There's a fear. There's fear in them, and they're afraid of something. And I was fortunate enough to have those eyes open, and look out for like, why is the homie telling me to do this, and to have that chip on my shoulder as well too, is to be like, you ain't gonna tell me what to do, homie. If you want it done, go do it yourself, or I'll go do it with you. But I'm not gonna go do something for you, and then that causes beef when you got a little homie telling an older homie something like that. And these youngsters now, I want them to, just like you've told them, to keep your eye open for that. Yeah. Listen, like although not everything can click in like how to make sense of it, like you still have common sense to say this doesn't sound right, like, and to be your own man. Is that what if you're being told to go handle somebody else's business because we're all supposed to be men here, well, shouldn't that guy be handling his own business? He's a man. And but they're too hungry right now to be official
or
to say
scared.
anything.
Most of it's just they're scared. I don't want anyone to think I'm a punk. I don't want anyone to call me a lame. Because I can't say that there's any kind of mission that like we're gonna go do this and that and that I back down from. But it was usually, again, just like in some kind of drunken haze. Like, these dudes just got crazy. Let's go get crazy with them.
Oh, and so what age did you start seeing through that to where you started seeing like?
I always, like I said, I always had that conflict because I was raised right. My mom was really street smart. My dad was from Mexico, so he thought of things differently. He thought cholos were all stupid, you know. But my mom taught me a lot. She schooled me a lot on like the right way, the wrong way, you know. So I had that. I had my cousin teach me that. So I had that inner conflict. I always had that thing, and I wouldn't talk myself out of it. There's a couple times when I had to get in fights with my own homies because I disagreed with why or what they were doing.
What's a good one that you remember that you disagreed with something that ended you to fight with one of your own homeboys?
They wanted to like. There's a dude from the west side. Ran into a dude from the west side. He had a personal beef with them. Instead of running them one on one, he's like, yeah, we're gonna jump this fool. We're gonna get this fool. And even though he's from the west side, it's like that was our little fake enemy because they're not really our enemies. I'm like, well, why don't you just run it one on one with homie? No, we're gonna jump him. So then we start arguing back and forth. He wants to jump him. He ends up running it one on one with him. The dude from the west gets the best of him. Then we break it up. You know, what I mean, break it. If someone's getting the best of him, we would jump in or break it up or whatever. So then he felt like that was disrespectful. I remember calling him a punk. Well, you're a punk because you had a problem with homeboy, but you didn't want to run it. I've run it one on one with people, and I've had people beat me down. I've won some, I've lost some. You know, so we had that, and then you end up having to throw hands with one of your own homies, and it ends up all cool. But it's just like, at the end of the day, you got to stand up for yourself.
And did you start to see homies that either your age or a little bit older that you thought were solid, and then you start to see them the cracks in their armor?
I started to see things differently, and then I started like really getting into like mental health and studying that kind of things, and I started realizing this dude really is not that crazy. This is a severely wounded, emotionally individual, and this is why he's doing it, because anger, violence is just unresolved anger. That's all violence is. Violence is just unresolved anger. So then I started seeing things different. Like, this guy just can't control himself. Like, I have some level of self-control. He can't control himself. He's got to fight wherever he goes because he doesn't know how to deal with his own emotions. So I started seeing things from like a bigger lens, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it really changed the way that I did things or the way that I reacted and stuff like that.
And how did you study that mindfulness? Where did you get that knowledge from?
I had like mentors. Like I had Richard Ramos was, you know, back in the days, Richard Ramos was working at the junior high and then the high school, and then he had the Cornerstone Church. So I like involved myself with those guys, and they really made me think because, you know, they grew up in the same context we did, went through the same things we did. Sergio De La Mora, Ron Urzua, all these different people, like mentors, Capone, Big Capone. Mm-hmm. You know, I spent a lot of time cruising on the east side with Capone, and they would just make me think of things from a bigger, you know, they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. Like Capone used to say, man, you're really intelligent. You're really smart. You're a lot smarter than some of these cats. And he wasn't meaning to demean anybody. He was just trying to point out, I wasn't using that intelligence the way that I should have. So they got me on that track, and they made me start thinking about things differently.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. Let's get a little more into detail about that, because I feel just intelligence itself, such a beautiful, strong thing to have. But at least in our culture as youngsters, we're taught if you're smart, you're lame.
Yeah, you're lame. You're a nerd.
You know, you're a schoolboy.
And I grew up in between that because my mom came from that whole Chicano movement culture. So they were all about cultura, history, art, music, all that stuff. So growing up, we were always taught about reading. I see my mom just go through the books like crazy, you know. So I never thought that being smart was a dumb thing. Mm-hmm. The kids that used to get picked on, I used to like back them up because I thought they were cool. I thought it was dope that people were smart. That they're intelligent, but there wasn't very much value being put on education or intelligence. Now I know it's everything.
Yeah, especially by your homies. There was
there was nothing. Yeah, bro. Like I'm people think I'm weird. Well, now people were at my shop, for instance, used to think I was weird because I'm listening to motivational stuff, mental health stuff, constantly studying history, talking about things like that because I feel like I've got to keep my mind going. Your mind is a muscle. And you got to keep that thing growing. And people used to think I'm weird, but now they're all on it. What are you tripping on? One time I was listening to something about toxic masculinity, and I was like, "Fudge, man, I'm really freaking toxic as a male. There's a lot of toxic masculinity in my life, and I was kind of dealing with that, you know."
Yep.
And they thought, "What the heck is that, man? What are you tripping on?" But now they're starting to see it, you know. So that happened as a kid too, but on different levels. I started learning things and just going back to it because. Even when like the older homies would go to prison, they would come out on some crazy Malcolm X type stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's about the raza, this and that. It's a big picture. We're all one thing, and it's crazy because they understand it. They go back and forth. You know, some of your relatives that I was close with and things like that. We would be talking when they were busted, and we were going back and forth with books. Mm-hmm. You read this book, you read that book. We had like a book club going. He's in prison, I'm out here. That's like they don't think about that, but that's you become an adult. You become a little bit more mature. You understand If what I'm experiencing now is all there is, well, that ain't really a good life. But there's more to it.
Yeah, and if we can get these youngsters, because they're almost like putting their intelligence, like they're leaving it somewhere. Like they're leaving it at home, or they're leaving it in their pocket, because they want to relate to those around them, and those around them, most of them don't have that intelligence or leaving bit behind. They just don't have it. And so they're only speaking what they know, and in order to be on their level, a lot of these youngsters are bringing themselves down, even though they are very intelligent in some areas and driven in other areas, but they're just afraid to let that be known, because they'll be made fun of, or they'll be called a lame. And if we can like flip that around, don't think that you got to be for your homie, or be for your or be someone for your gang, and in the way that you have to conform to them. Like, be somebody, but influence them. Like, you don't have to just put in work. You don't have to go rob and steal and be locked up to be a righteous homie. Like, a righteous homie.
Yeah,
how about you start a business for them, and you can keep them busy? How about you just work your ass off, and you can buy them some shoes here and there, like, or help them out with their kids every now and then, or you push onto them, like, go listen to Eric Thomas, go listen to Tony Robbins, go listen to somebody, like, instead of playing this fucking rap music about selling dope and slapping bitches and shit like that.
All of that music that they glorify is written by a bunch of snitches, dude, by people that are telling each other they're not even telling their own life story, they're telling someone else's.
And most of the time, the lyrics are being written for them.
Yeah, it's by some ghostwriter trying to make them look cool.
Yeah, because they know they know how to do it.
Yeah, but the funny thing about it is, like, you get a conscience rapper that's talking, he's a veterano and he's talking about all this good stuff. I know some personally that are dope rappers that talk about community stuff. They'll never make it big, but the record labels will put all kinds of money into stuff that'll make you seem like a dope fiend, a womanizer, a dope fiend, a gang member. Those are the good things to be. Yeah. And they dump the money, but there's a plan in all of that, because they don't want you. Like, an educated community is a scary community for them, because they got to pay you more.
Oh yeah,
you're worth more,
and you're starting to take a bigger piece of the pie, and now their pie is not as big because you're taking some of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy, like, almost like a little metaphor. But I remember tattooing for free. I get the supplies and tattoo for free. No one paid me nothing. No one cared to pay me nothing. But now it's like, I'm not going to even turn on my machine for X amount of dollars. And it's not because I think that I'm better. It's because I know what I'm worth. And that's the same thing. It's the same thing in life. When someone knows their worth, well, I'm not going to go do this and that, because I'm worth a little bit more than that.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, well, fuck off then.
Yeah, and some of them, it's like, and then you get your freedom taken from you, more than a couple of times, just sitting there in a cell, and you're kind of like, this ain't all it, man. There ain't nobody writing me. Yeah. There's some of our homies that are doing life right now, and I talk to them and I write them, and then, like, have you heard from anyone? I ain't heard from nobody, bro. I heard from 2 or 3 people. There's no one. There was my mom and my dad putting money on my books,
and that's it. Yeah.
And that's it. Nobody. They forgot about you. All you are is something that they brag about to make themselves feel like they're part of something significant.
Yeah. And so, what troubles did you go through when you started to say, "Hey, I'm not gonna be kicking it out here anymore"? Like, look, guys, I'm not gonna be here. I got other shit to do. I'm not gonna be out here kicking it at the creek or kicking it at the park. Like, how did that go over for you? Because I know
there was people that hated on me. There's people that there was homies that, because I gotta go to work. I gotta go to school. I gotta do this and that. And then people try to call you a lame, try to call you a punk, and then for a while you're kind of like, well, anyone that calls you a punk, anyone calls you lame, you gotta fight with them to back up your name, and then it's like exhausting, because you can't fight with every single hater,
And nor does it stop it either.
It never stops it. It never stops it. And the crazy thing about it is, some of those people that gave me the most pressure are the ones that are, a few of them have turned their lives around. Me and Victor Vega had this thing. Victor used to be an instigator, bro. Like, he used to talk all kind of crazy, like, well, you don't want to kick it, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Talking crazy. And later on down the line, like, we had a discussion where he indirectly, like, apologized to me for being the way that he was, because now he's that dude out there that's out in the community trying to feed people, trying to help people get sober, trying to... Somebody that society threw away, and this dude is affecting so many people's lives in a positive way. And he used to be an instigator.
Yeah,
You know
Yeah, he was one of them. Yeah. He was one of them for me as well.
But he's a really good man, bro. He's a really good man. He's a really good father, you know.
Yeah, he's the program that he went to. I've seen a lot of homies go, and they haven't done what he's done with his life, going there.
Some of them died. Some of them are dead. Now, you know, that they come back home. It's just a matter of changing it. But I think to go back to it, for me, what was the defining moment of my life is becoming a father. I was 17 when my daughter was born. And I remember being petrified. I remember going to tell my daughter's mom, I remember going to tell her dad, an old school Mexican dude, didn't even speak English, had all these different morals that we had, like teenage pregnancy was unheard of, you know? I remember walking to the pad, and they live not too far from here, as a matter of fact, and having to tell him myself, because I felt like, I don't know how I had that in me, but I knew that it was my responsibility to be the one to tell him. And I remember being petrified, bro, crying. Here's this homie, this dude doing all this and that, like, you know, respected on the streets or whatever, and I'm crying because I got to go tell this dad that I just ruined his life by getting his daughter pregnant. And I remember going there and him not looking at me or anything, not even speaking to me, not responding to me, not showing me any kind of respect. I didn't deserve any respect at that moment, but I tell him, like, I don't know what to say, but I promise you I'll always take care of your daughter, and I'll always take care of your granddaughter. And I kept that promise. And then years down the line, you know, family parties kind of faded. He tells me, you know, like, I didn't think you would come through, but you came through. You know, so that was a defining moment in my life. And at that time, that's when homies are going to prison. 17, 18, people going to YA prison, this and that. And I had to make choices. My daughter was more important to me than all of that. And I actually had homies that would told me, like, oh, so you're going to choose your daughter over us? And those words, bro. About it. I go, oh, dude. Like, that's a real question. And he was dead serious, you know? So I ran. I even got jumped by some of our own homies. And half of the guys that jumped me are no good anymore. They end up turning around and telling on people. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about that. I'm just trying to speak the truth of what these kids can expect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's the same story, right? Over and over. That's what they can literally expect if they can continue on down their path.
Your own people are going to try to put hands on you over choosing your kid.
And even if they don't believe us here talking, go talk to a homie that's older than you by 4 or 5 years. Like, they're going to tell you the same thing, and if not, they're lying. But not everyone stays solid. For the most part, most of them don't stay solid.
Most.
And some of them are going to die from dope or violence, and some of them are going to go to prison, and you're never going to see them again.
Yeah.
But all those things that aren't a place you want to end up at.
No, there's just no good options. Only a good option is that you turn around and live your life. Because there's a handful of homies, luckily, that made those choices, became fathers young, did their thing, you know, like it's cool, you know. Then we kind of connected from that standpoint because now we're all dads and we got kids and all this and that. Excuse me. A lot of homies that are getting straight now, 20 years later after using drugs, going to prison. That's an awesome thing, and we all connect around that. But it was hard at first, man. I felt like I almost had to watch my own back in my own neighborhood because, like,
were you still going to like parties and kickbacks?
I didn't really go to parties anymore. Well, I was on probation too. You know, like I was basically on probation from the time I was 12 all the way to 18. So I didn't want to get busted. What kind of broke my heart is my daughter was 2 years old. A situation happened. I ended up getting arrested, and I remember her mom holding her, bro, and the freaking sheriffs were driving me off in the back of the car. I get arrested. I'm only there for 2 weeks. They're going to try to make me do a little commitment. And I remember going to court, and my daughter, like I said, was a couple weeks old. One of the bailiffs asked me, "Is that your daughter?" I said, "Yeah, that's my daughter. She was just born." He goes, "Well, what are you here for?" A little violation. He goes, "All right, cool." He goes, "Well, I want you to go into this little side room," because everybody else was kept in one room. He sent me to the side room. He walks in with my ex-wife, my baby's mom. He walks in with her, and he goes, "I'm going to let you hold your daughter for a little while." And I was just tripping, dude, because the dude was just being kind to me. And that's not my experience with the cops in those days, you know? And I'm all, "Thank you, man. I appreciate that." He goes, "Yeah, I just had a daughter a week ago, so I know what it's like." After that, it was just like, boom. That was the last time I was ever arrested. Ever. Never been booked, never been questioned, never been brought in. I still have the authorities try to smut my name up and say, like, even though I'm certified to work with kids, I go into correctional facilities and talk to kids. I work with foster kids. My name still shows up as an active East Side gang member. It always will. You know, so, but that was it. I just wanted to be a dad. I didn't want to do to my daughter what my dad did to me.
And after that last arrest, you put together like, hey, it's not the risk. I'm not going to go out and party. I'm not going to go out and kick it.
I was just pick and choose who I was with, and then we started having homies that had kids and everything. So I'd kick it with my cousins. I'd kick it with those dudes. I still thought it was dope. Like I'd roll up on the east side, see homies, chill with them, talk to them. But I knew when to get out of Dodge. Like, all right, cool. When they start drinking a lot, when this or that starts happening, when people are doing drugs, I would stay clear away from anybody doing any kind of drugs.
And so I'm 36 right now. How old are you?
43.
43. So you got about 7 years on me. So at 17, I was 10.
Yeah.
When I started kicking around 14, jumped in by 15. You were about 22, and you were long, like you said. You kind of smartened up by 17. So I know I didn't meet you till many years later. But I know I had a similar thing as well. I was just having a kid at 17, and then still kind of playing on the fence of, well, if I'm gonna go party or hang out, I'm gonna go with the homies. But I always had a solid homie who was actually an actual friend and not just a homeboy, which was my brother from another mother, Chino. And he would always tell me, like, hey, Gil, these are what the homies are saying about you. You don't kick it enough. You're I'm over here, a couple kids, because at 17 I had my son, but the mother of my children, she already had a 2-year-old, and that became my daughter right then. When I had my son, she became my daughter. And so I had two kids at 17, and then I started my business at 18. So I'm over here trying to be a dad, and I'm trying to get a business. I don't know how to start a business. I knew I had a good work ethic, so I jumped right into it. And that's what I'm hearing, is that homies are saying I don't kick it enough.
Right, the same thing.
Yeah.
You don't kick it.
Yeah, and he'd come back and tell me these things and say, hey, they're gonna have some things to say about you and to you. So a part of me would want to go, and I'd want to shake all their hands when I got there and look them in their eye to see if they were gonna say anything like I was being told, and there wasn't. But so I lost a lot of respect too, because I would have much rather of them told me straight up, hey, Gil, you're gonna get your ass beat right now, or you're gonna get jumped out, or whatever they want to say. Like, say something, but don't say nothing when you're talking behind my back.
It's funny because I had a situation like that years ago, right? When they were badmouthing. See, you don't kick it, I don't care, whatever. Someone calls you a lame or someone calls you a punk. Now you're attacking my character. Like if I did something bad to somebody. So I remember being mad about it. You know what I mean? Like, so they told me, well, a few homies are gonna get together, gonna talk about something. And Chino was there. It's funny because he knew the whole thing. He was cool with me, so he's feeding me all the information that they're telling me. And he's not instigating. He's like, you should make these fools look, make them do something. So I'm mad, bro. Like I went into a whole different thing. I get there expecting some kind of drama, like who's trying to like smut my name up or dirty my name, and I knew who the individuals were. I knew exactly who they were. People told me, everybody was loyal to me, Chino and all these other dudes that told me. And one of the other homies said, okay, well, so-and-so is trying to smut this person up, that person. And the homie right here, he's one of the older homies. They were trying to smut him up. Who has something to say? And me and Chino just look at each other, just kind of laugh. Like, who's going to say something? Nothing. You have nothing to say? And I actually looked over at the dude that was talking and go, so you didn't have nothing to say about me? No, I didn't have nothing to say. I was just joking around. You got to watch what you say when you're joking around, calling someone a lame or calling someone a punk. So it was funny because there was some really young kids that just happened to be there, and they saw that whole exchange happen, and I think it did something for them because they realized these fools are just these weak-minded people are going to talk about you. These other guys are going to have your back, and it's all going to come to a head.
Yeah.
There's no real loyalty. There's only a couple that are really loyal to you,
No, it was. I think that had to be a big shift for that, whatever the audience was. Because you get to see firsthand, you hear some homie talking all this, man, I'm going to beat this fool's ass when I see him, or this fool's a lame, and then you're put in front of him, and you got to retract that, or you got to say, I'm joking, or you got to say, I didn't mean it. You just lost all, like, validation from these dudes that that thought you were something, that thought you were solid, but you just proved to them otherwise.
Yeah, because everybody knew, you know, like they're running their mouth and all these other. And the sad thing to me is a lot of it was like the little youngsters that were there were my friends' kids, and that's heartbreaking in and of itself. But it's like that's just someone's always got something to say, and you really can't. You can't really go around. You got to figure out. You got to pick your battles.
And I think I remember, too, is that I only thought that you were hard if you were a gangster.
Yeah.
And anybody who wasn't, I just thought, they didn't have balls and they weren't hard enough to be a part of this life. So gangsters are the ones that are the hardest on this planet. And that's what my mentality was back then. And it wasn't until I started seeing things like I would see some regular dude on the street hit up a homie, and like there was one time we were at the creek. I'm not gonna say any names. I don't want to put anybody on blast, but there was me, a couple of the younger homies, and then one of the older homies, and this was a dude I looked up to. Thought he was down for his shit, and I had seen him beat down over and over and over, but I didn't pay close enough attention to, who were the people that he was down to smash on, you know? Because at this particular moment, there was just a regular dude, a jock, former jock, I should say, because we're at a school at this time. But this was a dude that didn't fuck around, and he was about his business. He wasn't from a gang or anything. He just handled his own shit. And I remember he ran into the older homie that was kicking it with us, and he said, I finally found you. You're right here now. So what's up, man? I heard you've been talking this shit or whatever. They had some beef, and the older homie just quivered. Like, oh man, and that was just like, fuck, like
there goes your foundation.
Yeah, it's like, what am I standing on? Like, what am I supposed to strive to be? But in my heart, I'm ready to jump because he's coming against, you know, another crazy.
Yeah.
And so I'm not gonna jump him, but I'm ready to scrap myself just because that's just how I was brought up. It's like if somebody jumps, we all jump and we get ready. And if he were to turn to me, I know there's no way in hell that I'm gonna back down. Not because I'm some fucking tough dude.
Because you thought that's what you had to do.
But just because I got principles. Like, there's no ass beating that's gonna hurt more than me feeling like a coward.
Yeah.
Because I felt that feeling. Yeah. I felt that feeling when I didn't stand up for myself before I became a gang member and I let everybody step on me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, no, that pain is much more painful than a black eye or a fucking, you know, bruised rib. Like, so no. But that's what I'm expecting from all my peers. And then, like, when I told you, did you see chinks in the armor? That's when I started just because I open my eyes and pay attention, and I don't take excuses. Like, there's no explanation you're gonna tell me of how you can validate your actions right now. Mm-hmm. And it was just that simple. So I think a lot of these youngsters now, like, they're afraid to be thought of as a lame, like, or a punk or a leva, and it's like you don't have to go that route. You can simply stand up and ask questions and pay attention to the answers and how they're answering them.
We have to flip the mindset of what we think like someone that's strong is. Like me, I see someone I love seeing a dude walking with his kids or playing with his kids. Like, I go to the park to work out and I see this dude playing with his little kids. To me, that's a real man. To me, if you have kids, and I don't say this lightly because I don't know what everyone went through. I don't know what kind of drama people have going on. But if you're able-bodied, you have the opportunity, and you have kids, and you choose not to take care of them, to me, that's a lame. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a punk. If somebody else is supporting your kids because you choose not to, not because you can't or you're in a bad position, because that happens to all of us, but you blatantly choose not to take care of your kids, you're a punk.
Yeah.
I can't respect you. I don't even want to shake your hand. But then again, I don't want to be self-righteous because we've all been there, and maybe a little bit of hope could flip that around. Because I know a lot of people that weren't there for their kids that are sure they're now, you know?
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely right. Not only in parenting, but in many, many aspects of life. Like, if your older homie is still living at home and they're not contributing a dime to their parents or grandparents, like, we understand Santa Barbara's hard to go live on your own and to make a living, especially with the record.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no good reason or excuse to not contribute.
People contribute all the time. They make it happen, you know.
Yeah, there's one way or another. But if you're not, like, those are the things you should be looking out for. Like, and also, if a dude's older and he's still out gangbanging with you, he's 20 something and you're 15, and he's still saying that he's a hardcore gang member, like, that's something's wrong with that picture. Like, look further into it. There's, like, these youngsters, like, you can't tell them anything, right? You can't tell them something to change their mind, but you could explain to them, hey, open your eyes to these things. Yeah. Question everything.
Go ask his homies what they think about him. And a lot of them will tell you, well, that dude's, I wouldn't kick it with that dude either. You know, he's like, if you're in your 40s and still telling people where you're from, and you didn't do it good enough, because they should have known where you were from a long time ago, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I said, it's just about changing mindset of what's good, what's bad. You know, I don't have any disrespect for people that want to change their lives. You know, I have a hard time with people when they turn around and say, well, I renounced the East Side, or I renounced the West Side. You forgot where you came from. You found something else that's a little bit more comfortable, because if you can't, if God or the Creator, or however you see it, put you in that context, you were born there, you were born around these people, then He also gave you a responsibility of making that better.
Mm-hmm.
So I could go make money in another city, but if I'm not coming back to my own city to try to help people, then I'm no good.
Yeah. And
that's just how I see it.
I believe you 100% in that, and that's why I can't just say, oh yeah, well, fuck that life is for losers and I'm gone. It's like, no, there's something wrong there, and I have a lot of love. That even though it caused a lot of bad in my life, it did a lot of good for me in my life too. It helped mold me, and it helped make me the man I am today. And I want to go in there and help. You know, I want to help. I want more confidence to come from it. I want more good to be extracted from there, and not just say, throw a blanket over it and pretend it doesn't exist, because now I found something better. Like, just like you said, I got a business, I got a family, I got I got jiu-jitsu, I got all these other things now. So if I don't need that, it's like, no, man, like, that you have it in your power to help.
Mm-hmm. You were placed there for a reason. That's why so many people that really look into it respect what Nipsey did, what Nipsey Hussle did. I've been up on Nipsey for a long time before it was like just like a fad, but he was investing in his community, starting businesses, empowering people to do their own businesses, doing these other things. Who taught him that? How did he learn it? You see, I think that's like, we're created with those kind of skills within us already.
Mm-hmm.
It's just tapping into them. We're always trying to find power and purpose from outside, when God already put it inside of us. It's there. So he found that inside, and he was able to give all these people so much hope. You know, when they're cruising through in the hearse with his body through his neighborhood, those people were hurting, bro, because he had such a deep connection to his community. He never left it. You could see him in the 60s all the time. You know what I mean? And I respect people that do that. I respect people that do that. People that'll be there telling the truth. People that'll love their neighborhood. You know what I mean?
And that's the only way it's ever going to change, right? From within. That's you're not going to get these rich people from outside. They'll want to help. Like they're only going to help what they know. There's very, very little good ones out there who will, they'll give some funding but it's only going to happen from within. Yeah. And if the people who make it out and make a better life for themselves turn their back on, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's like if
that's cowardly. That's something that it's just hard to deal with. I mean, I think a perfect example is that when the whole gang injunction was happening, I was doing my thing. I had my business, had my family. I wasn't really involved in it. I'm against gang injunctions because I understand that gang injunctions only happen when they're going to gentrify something. So they'll put a gang injunction in place, get rid of all the poor people that they don't want to see, move in all these rich people, and then start over. You're gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what gang injunctions are about. There's a lot of scientific proof about that whole thing, socioeconomic proof about how that happens. But I remember just sitting at home thinking about it. I see Gabi Hernandez. I see Jacqueline Inda, all these different people from JP, all those different people getting into it, fighting against it. And I'm like, I got to go get back in that mix. I got to go over there just to support them. And I didn't go to be no speaker or to talk or do anything like that. I just came back to organize, and I took my kids with me, and it became this whole fight where we fought for years. The community did all of the research. The community was, the lawyers were amazing, but the community supported the lawyers. Community did fundraising for all of that stuff to fight against the gang injunction, which if there was a gang injunction in Santa Barbara, it would have completely paralyzed the youth, because they could have put you on that injunction without any kind of proof of you ever being a gang member. You know, there was a lot of bad things. So it's like, I was drawn back into my neighborhood because other people that came from our neighborhood were in a fight, and I understood. It almost goes back to like how we were gang-wise. There's something happy, something's nutty, so I'm going to jump in. And the same thing, it pulled us back, and we fought it. And Santa Barbara became the first city in the United States, from my understanding, to ever defeat a gang injunction before it happened. That's something that nobody else could say.
Yeah, and I don't think that got announced that didn't get a big deal made of it.
No.
Like, that's the first I'm even hearing that it's the first in the United States.
The gang injunction they were trying to impose on us was bigger than the one they had in Oakland. People wouldn't have been able to go to work. You couldn't work in the waterfront. You couldn't work downtown. You couldn't take your kids to school. There's so many different things that it would have been really, they would have paralyzed the community. Mm-hmm. But we fought it, you know what I mean? And that was a big thing. That was a big thing. And then we realized that it just doesn't stop there fighting that gang injunction. Now we got to help these kids, and why are they joining gangs and this and that? Because we understand that the cards are stacked against them already. We got to keep them out of that, you know? So it was a powerful thing. And I remember, I really didn't think we would win, because it's never been done. You know, we fought freaking hard to beat that thing. And I remember the day I was doing a tattoo, bro. It was early in the morning, and a friend of mine who happens to be a cop here in Santa Barbara, he's a cool dude that I've tattooed before, sends me a text, and he says, "Hey, bro," because they were in deliberation for like 3 months with it. "Hey, bro, I'm just letting you know we got a full bulletin of all law enforcement that Colleen Stern is denying the gang injunction. You guys beat it." And then him being a cop, and I don't mess with too many cops back in those days, you know what I mean? He's just happened to be good too. And he tells me, "That's what happens when you stand up for what you really believe." And he goes, "I'm proud of you guys." So then I couldn't believe it, bro. I look, and then I remember calling Gabi, and we were both choked up, bro. We're in tears, because this is something that could have destroyed our community, and we became the first time it's ever happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that, and gang violence in Santa Barbara has actually dropped considerably since all of that. There's still issues to work, because it's going to go in waves. You know, it's going to go in waves because kids are doing new things and stuff like that. But
yeah, and restricting's never going to stop it anyways.
No.
So like you said, you got to change the environment and the mindsets of the people who are doing it. But because Santa Barbara would have been very, very easy to just fill it back in with rich people. There would have been no problem with that.
We're already invisible anyway. Like when you tell people from Oxnard, I'm from Santa Barbara, I was like, "Well, you guys are like rich people." I'm like, "Bro, none of us were rich, dude. We're a bunch of like regular people or poor people surrounded by a gang of rich people." That's all it was. You know, every time you have a really rich community, you got people mowing their lawns, making their beds, taking care of their kids. That's us.
But that's fucking awesome to know that when push came to shove, the community came together and said, "No, like, we're going to fight for this, and it ain't going to happen."
Yeah.
Like, we don't like it either. We don't like our kids getting stabbed or jumped or afraid to walk around, but this isn't the answer, and we ain't going to let it. Like, we know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You ain't doing it to help us out.
No.
You know, so.
That's funny, because every time, like, someone, like, for instance, they protest police brutality or a cop kills somebody, they said, "Well, you guys never protest when there's gang violence." Like, well, you guys aren't there. You're not on the streets, because that's all we do all day, every day. We're against gang violence. We're against kids killing each other. We're trying to expose to these kids why they're doing it. You know, trying to have them deal with their hurt in a different way. We are against all of that stuff, and we're actively working against all of that stuff, and we're trying to do it from whatever our piece of the pie is, whether that's being an employer and giving people jobs, because, you know, like Father Gregory Boyle says, nothing stops a bullet like a job.
Mm-hmm.
You give a guy a purpose, that's it. Homeboy
yeah.
Industries, you look what they're doing, biggest gang intervention thing in the country. You know, and that's what you're doing. That's what we're trying to do. You know, half the dudes that work in our shop are either in recovery from drugs, been in gangs. You know, they're from big neighborhoods, and none of us live that way, dude. We're all just taking care of our families and doing our things. You know, and it's just a matter of giving people hope and giving people purpose.
What do you think if you could have your strategy and put it in place, how do you think that would roll out? because I think you're absolutely correct. It's if we give these people these people a purpose because they want something to stand for and something to fight for. We're human. That's what we're meant to do. And when they don't have it, you look for something to do it for.
Mm-hmm.
And until everybody has something to stand for and fight for and have a purpose, it's going to continue to go because there's no good leadership in place. What would be your strategy to be able to provide those opportunities and purpose for these youngsters?
At the beginning of the day, and this is something I learned from my mentor, Richard Ramos, and he has like Parents on a Mission. That's something that's really good to look up, Parents on a Mission. He goes to prisons and he talks to people on parenting skills. But I believe that that it starts at home. You know, like he uses the analogy, he says if you go into a garden and all the flowers are dead, all the flowers are dying, do you blame the flowers? Do you yell at the flowers? Do you try to hold the flowers accountable for being dead? No, you hold the people accountable that were supposed to take care of the flowers, that were supposed to put the fertilizer, that were supposed to water them to make sure that they got sun.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the parents. Like we need that parenting skills. You know what I mean? You give people parenting skills, they're not going to want to do dumb stuff because they have responsibility. So like enabling people, some parents poverty is another thing that we would have to really address. You have to make it realistic. You know, like people are working so much that their kids are slipping through the cracks and they have no choice. You know, so we have to address those things. You know, we'll give people time with their kids, give people those skills to deal with their kids, and then it goes from there. You know, then there should be mentors and people that are telling these kids the truth and all of these things outside of the home that'll listen to them. You know, and I think my challenge to like a lot of the homies that have come up and done good and everything is like, get out there and start telling the truth.
Like get back out there.
Get back out there. Get back out on the streets. We were back out there on the streets riling these little kids up. I mean, we should feel somewhat responsible for any sort of like East Side, West Side gang violence. We instigated all of that. So we have a responsibility to come back in and stop all of it.
Yeah. And a lot of them still glamorize it.
Yeah.
You know? Because that's still their little slice of fame that they could hold on to. So parenting.
Parenting is big. It starts at home. It all starts at home. Helping people because people are dealing with so much post-traumatic stress from everything from sexual abuse. People don't talk about sexual abuse, especially in our culture. We don't talk about. We just sweep it under the rug. But a lot of these young boys are angry because they've been sexually abused and they don't know how to deal with it. So they need help. They really, really need help. I read a study where, I forgot the exact percentage, but they did a study from kids that are 15 to 25 in the California prison system and the youth authority, and they were saying that it was like 80-something% of them had been sexually or physically abused. And I remember sharing that at a youth facility, talking about the reasons of why we do things, and I saw a bunch of those little boys tearing up, man. So it's like that's like that unresolved anger, that unresolved pain that turns into violence. You know. We need more resources like that. We need people that they can talk to, people that they can feel safe with. You know, we need more safe places for kids to talk. People that they could talk to, like people like you and I, that could say like, "Look, bro, I've been through this and that too." Because I've opened up about a lot of my personal life experience and whatever they may be, and people were able to connect. Like I would have never thought you'd been through that. Mm-hmm. I'd never thought you'd been suicidal. Because there've been times when I've sat with a gun in my lap, wanting to just end it all after being successful, you know. So like you share that, like I shared that with someone, or I shared like the other day after my dad passed away, I shared something about being the child of an addict, and my friend turned around and sent that to her brother-in-law, who was a drug addict, and his kids, you know, his kids have had a terrible life because he was a drug addict. He read what I had written, the little thing I had written on Facebook, and checked himself into a rehab, and it's already been 3 months.
Just from speaking up on something.
Speaking from my hurt, you know, not being afraid to be vulnerable and talk like, this is what hurt me, this is what jacked me up. It could help somebody. So we could tell our story and tell our truth, and we could change somebody's life, dude. And if I could change one person's life, they'll change another person's life. It's like they say, you make disciples who make disciples, disciple cycles. And it just goes and it goes and it goes and it goes. You know, so that's we just have to be passionate about helping people. We got to get back out there. We got to reverse all of these curses that we put on our neighborhoods, because we fall into the trap. We're doing exactly what they want us to do so that they could get rid of us, so that they could take care of all of it. they wanted it, they'd have us all living in the desert and driving over here to work for them.
No doubt. Fucking no doubt with that, huh?
You know what I mean? But no, we're here. We're gonna do our thing. We're gonna create our own businesses. We're gonna have financial freedom so that we can help other people. Not so that we can ball out and people can see us driving these nice rides, but so that that little kid that can't afford to have shoes, and so the one that's gonna get bullied because he's too poor to buy school clothes, we could turn around and buy those school clothes without anyone knowing anything.
Yeah, and you know what? I wish that one day, and hopefully while I'm still alive, that it'll be cool. It'll make you righteous. It'll make you hard to look out for another youngster. Yeah. Like if you're 15 years old and you see somebody who's getting bullied, or see somebody who has a raggedy pair of shoes, instead of making fun of him, that you go and you take care of him.
Yeah.
You befriend them.
And the thing that's so dumb about it is if you go to prison, first thing they do is they ask you where you're from. Okay, I'm from Santa Barbara County. Okay, well, here's your homies. Here's all the other homies from your area. They could be from Oxnard, Santa Barbara, or Santa Maria, wherever that happens to be. What do? What do you need? You need this, you need that, you need this. They take care of each other. So all these people that were just hating on each other, taking from each other, exploiting each other, all of a sudden are taking care of each other. Well, why can't we do that out here? What do you need, bro? So one of the biggest things that we did the last couple of years, and one of the homies that's busted, he had a really good heart, and we started raising money for people that were in prison, right, for their kids, to make sure that their kids had Christmas presents and Easter baskets, and we went around and we passed them out, and I collected a gang of money from people, business people, church people, community people, to take care of these other people that had a need. You know what I mean? I got the whole community believe that, hey, it's a good thing that this guy that happens to be in prison, that his kids still have some kind of Christmas, and those are things that we need to do. We need to get back to it. Like all the homies that have passed away, are we still helping their kids out? We said we're ride or die. Are we still there for their kids? Are we still there for their family? All the ones that are busted and gone, are we still helping them out? Do we even write them? Do we even care? Just one little postcard could change something for somebody. So we need to get back out there. Like so the thing is God's given us a gift by changing our life around. Well, if we don't turn around and help change somebody else's life, we could take it all away, because it's all temporary. All the money we got, all the jobs we have, whatever we happen to have, we can make one bad decision that's gone.
Yeah, no doubt.
Easy.
Yeah, even not even mean, you could be doing everything right, but life's fucking crazy,
Life's crazy. It's not fair. You could die. You could die of cancer,
And I see, I started the business at 18, 36, so 18 years now, and it was cooler. That talk about purpose and having something to wake up for and do, and it helps me feel significant, helps me provide for my family. And in the beginning, my whole workforce was homies. Mm-hmm. Everybody on my crew was a crazy.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it.
And when you talk about like getting your name smut up by the community, like that, all the judges, like, because we had to fill out, we send out probation letters saying, hey, this guy's doing well. Or if somebody ended up going back to county, like, hey, this guy will have a job when he gets back out, or a letter of reference for just court. They started to think that I was running some mafia underground type of business over here, when all I was doing was just trying to keep homies busy and give opportunities. For the most part, the homies never did something good with them. They just took it as a paycheck and went off and still did what they were going to do. But
you did good for the sake of doing good.
I did good, and it felt good, right? Mm-hmm. And I've always been a kind of addicted to providing opportunities. Yeah. But it went to a certain time where just a few years back, it was like, fuck, this whole business thing, it's not as fulfilling anymore. It's like, there's got to be more.
Yeah.
There's got to be more. And I just couldn't put my finger on it. But it took a lot of like self-thought and taking your time to just be by yourself and think. A lot of it's when I'm working out too. That's some therapy right there. But that's what it all came back to. What you're saying is, Gil, like, you're not giving back enough. You got more power to do right in your community than what you've been doing. Having a business is cool. You could provide 10 to 20 opportunities to individuals. Great, awesome. But what else can you do? You know? And that's when Solid Foundation was born. Because like I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm just gonna get started. You know, I'm gonna jump in, and anybody who wants to ride with me can. But that's where fulfillment started coming back on a professional
like purpose.
Exactly.
It's like a different cycle in your life, and you found purpose in it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, making money is cool. Having financial freedom should be everybody's goal. And when I say financial freedom, is like you want to buy a home, you want to do something, you want to do something with your kids, you want to go on vacation, you don't have to worry about it. You know, like think about it. Every time a homie dies, what do? We have to have a car wash. We have to have a fundraiser. That's a terrible thing, man. We should have to be able to just bury your kids in peace, or if that something tragic like that should ever happen, you should be able to take care of it. But at the end of the day, money is never going to be my motivation, bro. Like money, I've had money and I've had no money. I've had properties, I've had no property. You know what I mean? And that didn't make me any happier. It was just when I felt like I was doing the work of the creator and just out there trying to help people. That's where I get my fulfillment, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel that's something to stand up and be righteous for. Like if I need to get physical, I got no problem getting physical for it. And I think these youngsters, they like fighting. It's human nature. Like we gotta hunt and we gotta fight, and that's where martial arts comes in. If I had jiu-jitsu back when I was 15, maybe I wouldn't have got jumped in. But I had so much anger in me, and I had a lot to prove, which was the bigger thing. I more wanted to prove to myself, and luckily I wanted to prove it to myself, and I didn't. I never had I never like had that want to prove to others. It was just always I wanted to prove to myself that I could stand up for myself. And if I would have had jiu-jitsu, maybe I wouldn't have needed to be in a gang in order to do that. But I still do. Jiu-jitsu is part of my life, and before that was doing boxing, right? But boxing, you can't go 100% every day. You end up with brain damage. Jiu-jitsu is like chess with your body. Yeah. You know, it's a mental game. Yeah, you got to be in shape, but in the most part, if you're smart enough and you've been training long enough, you know how to move without exerting too much strength. So you can go hard. And it's something about either giving up and when you tap, giving that power to the other person to say, hey, if this was real life, you would have got me to a point to where you could have killed me, broke my arm, choked me out. And so being able to be humble enough to tap to somebody and submit to them is very humbling. And then it's powerful to be able to know you have that power to do it to others. So like I think martial arts needs to be a part of schools. Like there should be a department, like forget in-house suspension, forget all expulsion. If you are getting in trouble and you're already in a martial arts class within the schools, because they're on every campus, your punishment is to go on the mat. Like if you have a behavioral problem, go with your instructor or go with your peers and get it handled. You know, you want to be a badass, you want to bully him, and go handle it there. Or you two got beef, cool, come and squash it. Come and squash it in a safe environment where you're gonna have people watching, and you guys are gonna be able to take out your aggression on each other because it's there. It's never gonna go away. People get mad at each other. People have problems. Sometimes you need a fight in order to get it out. You can't talk every problem out, until you learn those skills. But even now, I deal with, just like you, like 20 people a day. Just within our business. That's not talking customers, clients, contractors. If I didn't have jiu-jitsu to go choke a motherfucker out or go stop myself, fight for my life, there's no way I could be as calm and cool, as collected as I can that I need to be.
Working out, diet, all that stuff affects you. I gotta work out.
Yeah.
I don't care how tired I am. I gotta get in there. I gotta do some kind of workout, whether I'm just doing push-ups or whatever it is, because it keeps my body right, keeps my mind right.
Yeah, I like to see fitness and martial arts in every school as a mandatory thing.
And it would help kids. And again, it's another thing in prison that they make you do. Like you go to visit anyone in prison early in the morning, you hear them doing the counts, doing the rutinas. Everybody has to work out. Everybody has to be doing this and that. Those are freaking good things, you know. Like if they could bring that out here, because if you're healthy physically, you're gonna be healthy mentally.
Your mind will follow.
Yeah, and we don't even really think about like all the stuff we eat, how bad it affects our mind.
No, they say here's a pill for that.
Yeah. See, I don't want to take. I don't want any kind of pills. I'm cool. You know what I mean? I'm not. I don't say that lightly either, because people do have to take some stuff. But like, we take care of ourselves. We take responsibility, and we should do it out of an act of gratitude. You know.
And I feel if we had those things and we give purpose, if we can say that, like, if you need something to stand up for, there's plenty of standing up for already. You don't need to go into a gang to do it. Like, stand up for the kids that are in those gangs. Stand up for your mom, your grandpa who struggle to make every paycheck. Like, get up and do something. And we're far away, but if we could switch that mindset, and, you know, like, I remember going out and kicking, and I didn't know then either, but I would be like, oh, cool, this homie's house, fucking his mom goes and buys us the brew. His mom's the one who kicks down the shit, and she lets us party all night, and we could come and go as we please. And me, I always had my home to go to with both my parents there. So me, it was like cool, I'm done with over here, I'm gonna go over there to a place where I'm loved and I'm fed. And I didn't know back then. I just thought how lucky that homie was to be able to do whatever he wants when he wants, not knowing now that it was a loveless, dangerous environment, probably where sexual, molestation and all that was just rampant because no one cared. It was just a shell of a home, and just the damage that it does.
The enabling. I mean, it's like, dude, can you imagine? Like, I know of parents that have been in prison with their sons, with their own kids. Can you imagine that, dude? Could you imagine? And I remember listening to the story of one of the original big dudes from prison back in the days, and he changed his life around. And he said he had a dream. What changed it is he was in the hole in Pelican Bay. He had this dream that his grandson was being arrested and brought to prison with him, and that dream, after all the killing he did, everything he did, it did something to him. He just said, that was too much to bear to have my own kids there. You know what I mean? So he made a decision to change his life, and he didn't go tell on everybody. He didn't go do this and that. He just changed the way that he was thinking, changed the way that he approached his family, and then for the rest of his life, just worked in his community and helped people, dude.
Yeah, and I think that's always that. There's plenty more help needed, right?
Yeah.
So these older homies that may feel like, well, I can't get a job, I got this record, I'm useless. They came up from those homes that we were talking about. There's no love, there's no foundation there. Mm-hmm. That there is an opportunity here. Like, yes, maybe you're not going to get paid. Maybe there's no money, but the fulfillment you get from it, there's no money that can buy that type of feeling.
Out of all the work I've ever done in the last 14, 15 years, the intervention stuff, we've never been paid, but it just so fulfilling to see some of this. Like, some of the kids that I've coached that have gone on to college, things like that. I mean, it's just like, it does something to you, man. It gives you more purpose, and then, it just keeps it going.
And if you're a youngster, and like you said, it starts with parenting. And if you're a youngster and you don't have those parents, that a lot of times that's what they're looking for, right? The rappers and the music that's out there, the movies that are out there. That stuff kind of needs to start changing too. Like you heard of Hobson, like not all of his songs, but some of his songs. Like there's some good shit, like Ill Mind 5, Ill Mind 7, when he's talking about being a loser because all you want to do is party and spend your parents' money. And then in Ill Mind 7, he talks about faith and stuff like that. Like if we get more and more of that, because if you just listen to it, like I've asked older cats, hey, listen to this. Nah. Oh yeah, it's cool. But do you hear the lyrics? Like, no. Well, they don't even pay attention to the lyrics of what's being said. It just sounds like a dope beat and somebody's rapping, and what everybody's used to is like hoes and money and stuff.
Because they haven't unlocked their own intelligence, so they don't value it yet.
So, but there's cats these days, there's youngsters these days that have talent, that they could be rapping about like good shit. They could be rapping about the struggle still, but what they did good with it and how they could help with it. Because we need all the help we could get, you know, and if whether it's this podcast or the work we're doing physically, the more media we could put out there, because not everybody's gonna have those parents to go to.
Well, we have to. That's when we have to step in. That's where our responsibility is. We have to be that parent for those kids. We have to be the one that tell people you love them, encourage them, tell them you're proud of them. All these things that homies are not supposed to say to them, it means something to them, you know? Like, it means something if you're proud. Like, help showcase them if they're artists or whatever they do, just back them up, do it. You know, we have to fill those voids because our actions as kids created voids. The way that we lived, people ended up dying. People ended up addicted. People ended up in prison. And there's kids attached to all of that. So some of our actions created voids that are going to create more voids. So we have to go back in there and fill it. We got to go back in there and fix the mess that we made.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just our responsibility. And if we don't do that, we're just cowardly and selfish and die with no purpose, man. You know what I mean? Like, I remember one of my mentors took me into a graveyard. He's like, I want to show you something. And he took me into the graveyard and he goes, what do you see here? And I said, I see a gang of graves. I don't really see anything. And he goes, look deep. I still couldn't get what he was saying. He goes, when I look out here, do you know what I see? I see a bunch of potential that never made it. I see a bunch of people that never lived out their purpose. I see people that are dead now because somebody else didn't choose to live in a different way and help them through it. And it freaking got me. And then he just got in the car and we just drove off. And that was 25 years ago. And that every time I go there, I think about all of the potential that never flourished, you know?
Yeah, the potential that never flourished. And what if you would have had a little just interaction with them in their life? What difference could you have made? You know, so that's why I'm hoping to have more and more homies like yourself, whether it's from the east side, from the west side, Goleta, it doesn't matter. Just any homies that are willing to have the balls and courage to say, hey, that life ain't what it's about.
And there's a lot of people that are doing the work that don't get any recognition because it's a thankless job. You got to do it for the right reasons. But then there's a lot of people that are willing to get into it. They just don't know how. I was tattooing on a homie from the west side the other day, and we were talking about all of this, man. And he's just gassed up on how we could do it because neither one of us want to see the east side and west side start going back at it with each other. So we share ideas, we bounce ideas, we share intelligence, we swap different resources and things like that, and we could encourage each other. We could network together. Yeah. But it's just about doing it, you know?
Yeah, if you know you could always let them know, hey, there's Gil Regalado in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Have them come, you know, and anybody could look up your name, go ask around. Anybody could look up my name and ask around. We're not here because we dropped out and we got shot leva. Yeah. We're here because we always stood our ground. And you could go ask anybody. And I've never heard one bad thing said about you. And I hope to think that that's the same for me. And we're here sitting talking about these things because we want to make a difference. We want to stand up and we want to fight. We want to get active.
Yeah. And if you want to talk bad about that we want to flip it around and tell the truth. And if they're going to lie to these kids and we're going to turn around and tell the truth, good. Yeah. You want to talk on me about that? Good. Talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're right here.
I'm like, all right.
We could have that conversation, or we could go another notch, whatever you want to do. But we're not going to sit back lightly and let our neighborhoods in this city fucking go down the drain because a bunch of cowards are running the show.
Yeah. And then I've had homies from prison hit me up like, bro, you need to talk to my son. My son, he got in the gang, and I've seen some that slip through the cracks. One homie told me like, talk to my son, and now his son's in prison. And that's a sad freaking thing, bro. We could change that,
Yeah, and
we can't save everybody.
No, sometimes we can't, but we can try. Like, it breaks my heart for my godson. Like, I've tried to do everything: a house for him, structure, keep him busy, and just something couldn't. Like, fucking the gang had too much control of him, and he wanted to be such a big shot for him, and fucking it's like, yeah, you can't win them all, but that also gives you fire to go back harder, and try to build something bigger and better, so that we have more power to change and not lose as many.
And I think it's important also to not be so cynical, so that someone does go down the route of addiction, someone does get busted, and we think, well, they're washed up, it's over. That's one that slipped through the cracks. No, not necessarily. That just wasn't their time, because there's plenty of homies that have been in and out of prison that came out, had a normal life. There's people that have been addicts that are clean, that are helping other people. Until the last breath, nobody's expendable. There's a chance for everybody to turn it around. Because I feel like I'm turning it around every day. I got issues just like the next man. When I talk to people on a personal level, you want to talk about issues? I got issues, bro. There's things that I'm working through. I got anger issues. I got all kinds of things that I'm working through, but I'm working on it. You know what I mean? I always thought like on my grave, it would have been cool. I had this weird thought that they could carve on my grave, "Thank you for your patience during construction." Because that's just how I feel.
That's a good one.
I'm in construction, bro. And it's just, it's like, we're just beggars telling other beggars where to find bread for free. That's it. That's it, man.
Well, Phillip, I know we didn't get to spend too much time on your life, your exact life, but I think everything you said had to be said, had to be heard. I appreciate your time. Hopefully we could do this again.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's cool.
Dive into even more detail. And like I said, when we're talking on messaging, maybe there's some more things we could collaborate on to do on a physical work, and right now we're doing the verbal work. Is there anything that you'd like, any closing thoughts?
The only thing I would say is that no matter how bad it seems, no matter what we're going through, there's always hope. There's always some sort of purpose in everything. Just don't give up. Don't give up on your kids. Don't give up on the kids that are out on the streets. Don't give up on each other. Don't give up on the homies. Just continue loving people no matter how they treat you. Continue loving them in action, doing for people even if they don't appreciate it, because we do good for the sake of doing good, not for any kind of recognition. And we are who we are because somebody loved us. So I would just always keep that in mind, That's pretty much it.
Well, I appreciate your time.
All right, cool, man.
Thank you, Phillip.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
If you found value in what you heard in this episode, please share it with others and remember to subscribe so you can stay up to date with all future episodes. You can also help us provide job opportunities to teens by recommending Legacy Installation to all companies you know of that have needs for anything office furniture. Tell them to contact us through our website, www.legacyinstallation.com, or call us at 805-319-3274. Legacy is a school of work ethic for teens that uses office furniture installation as teaching material. So the more work we have, the more we can teach teens a solid work ethic while they earn a living.